The first time I saw him was in 1977, about 3-4 days after Srila Prabhupada passed away. I returned, somehow or other, by some, anyway, as fate would have it. I was sent to Mumbai just a few days before Srila Prabhupada passed away. And I was there when he passed away, and then I came back. And I came back, and there was, I saw there was this samadhi, it was some kind of shack. And there was an Indian sannyasi singing Jai Anilo Premadana. I didn't know who it was. Anyway, that was Gurudeva. That was the first time I saw him. And I didn't see him again for another 20 years, practically. So the first time he saw me, he walked into the room near the manor. He was giving a lecture. It was his second lecture second meeting in UK. And I was playing the harmonium and leading kirtan. So it was kind of the beginning of our relationship was through kirtan, you'd say. He liked the way I sang. He liked kirtan. And then after about 3 or 4 days, I turned up with the violin. And I was sitting in the front of him with the violin. Mm-hmm. Interesting, never seen that before. And then we went up to Leicester, and 3 or 4 days after that, he said, "So I heard you written some songs in English." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I want to hear." So I thought which one I was singing, and then I sang Krishna So Wonderful. It's describing the pastimes. It's got a Irish melody. And he started laughing and laughing. His disciples said he hadn't laughed like that for 10 years. At the end he said, "You're a funny man. I want your association." So everywhere we went, he always had me sing that song. He told me, I'll buy an air ticket for your violin. And then another time, so that time I said, should I bring, when I go to India, I was intending to go for Kartik, should I bring the violin to India? He said, "Yes, you can do." And I didn't, somehow or other. I thought, it'd be too something or other. So I didn't. So when I arrived, he said, "So you brought your violin?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh, you've done a very bad thing." He was very serious, very serious. And there was a couple of years. So every time I come when I did come with the violin, every time at the beginning, he'd go, like, "You got it?" And then there was a couple of years. Once I was in Kazakhstan, another time I was in Uzbekistan, I think, and I couldn't get the violin out. Somebody else had to bring it. And I arrived without the violin. He was really angry. There was one time he said, "You've taken my energy." So I asked him once, this singing with the violin, this is Nitya Seva, this is eternal service? He said, "It may be." But he was really, that first year, I forget, we were Glastonbury maybe. So he started telling me, he called me to his room and he started telling me how to sing. He said, there's this particular, he said you should sing very pathetic with violin. First Gora Hey, Gora Hey, Gora Hey, Gora Hey, Gora Hey. And then Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey. Then Radhe Hey, Radhe Hey. Krishna Hey, Krishna Hey. So okay, I was ready to sing and then during the kirtan he started. And he sang all those. And then at the end, instead of singing Krishna Hey, he's singing Shama Hey. He was crying. I mean, he was really, really absorbed. Really absorbed. One time we were in Govardhan, and I was playing the violin, I was sitting right in front of him playing the violin, and the bow broke, it came unglued or something, it just fell to pieces. He said, "What happened?" I said, "The bow broke, Srila Gurudeva." He said, "Well, you have to go and get another one." This is in Govardhan. So, there was one devotee was there, was visiting from Delhi, so I got in the car with them. And I went up to Delhi, spent the night in Delhi. Next morning I went shopping for violin bows, and came back on the train and got back to Govardhan. And he was really serious about it.
I was fortunate enough, although I was a latecomer, to Prabhupada. Wasn't initiated until 75, and by that time the movement was very, very huge, so hence I didn't really get any or very much personal association with Prabhupada. And it was the same for me with Gurudev in a sense, because I didn't come till 2002, and of course the masses of devotees had come in the late 70s and, you know, in the years before I came. But I was fortunate enough to get 1 or 2 parikramas when he was still coming out. He was still coming out in parikrama and sitting in all these wonderful places under trees and on stone platforms or on the dust itself, and speaking about the glories of that place and the messages of that particular place. And it was like, I mean, for me it was, maybe for anyone, maybe for any Westerner, parikrama can be tough, you know. It's hot, very, very hot. There are insects, there's lots and lots of pushing and squashing and congestion. Sometimes you sit on stone, you know, on the ground where it's not very comfortable. There are, you know, the food can be, or the prasadam can be a little austere. You can get deli belly. I mean, you know, the list of miseries can go on, but in Gurudev's presence, they just were not miseries. It was like they paled into insignificance. He, you know, somehow in his presence, I was able to do amazing things that I can't even so much do these days. Going out every day, 5 a.m. departure, and to these wonderful places, and Gurudev would be there saying, "You are very fortunate to come to these places." And it was just the most wondrous experience of my life. And we felt so connected. Everybody was so connected because of Gurudev, which was, in a sense, it was the same in Prabhupada's time. The problems came after the Guru disappeared, but at the time it was like camaraderie and brotherhood and sisterhood. It was just wonderful, just a wonderful atmosphere. So many lessons I got from that. I remember one time in Navadvip, when we had been at Mamgachi, the place where there's the lesson about separation, Viraha and Sambhog. And Gurudev told the story of Sita and Ram and how they sat there under that tree when they were in exile at that very spot. And Ram started to smile. They were just peacefully sitting there and he started to smile. And Sita said to him, "Why are you smiling, my lord?" And he said, "Because I'm thinking about how in this life you will leave me and I'll worship a golden statue of you. But in a future life, in Kali Yuga, Danya Kali, I'll leave you and you'll worship a golden statue of me." And then Sita thought about that for a minute and she said, "Why would you leave me, my lord?" And he said, "Oh, that's my special mercy on you, because then you can experience this topmost bliss of separation." And anyway, I could go on speaking about these beautiful memories of Gurudev's Harikatha that's touched the heart forever and completely changed my life, completely upgraded my life and brought me closer to Prabhupada.
To leave the country, what to do, because I had only a tourist visa. But I remembered Gurudev regularly. And then, so I was in Switzerland for a few months, got a new visa, and then I came back. And then, so I was again in Vrindavan, and I served in the Gurukul. And then, by the will of Providence, so actually my wife was there as teacher, and actually I was there as a brahmachari, but my to-be wife was there, and then the marriage was arranged. I got married. And then so then again I had the opportunity one time to meet him in Varshan. Actually I saw him there, but there was not much exchange, but I saw him there, and I think he saw me there, recognized me. But then later on this year, that was in 1990, Kartik time, at that time I was head pujari in Vrindavan, and so my first guru was one of Prabhupada's disciples, but then he had some difficulties. So then I was very, very much feeling that now it is time to again take shelter of an exalted Vaishnava. So then in Kartik I got sick, and I could not do my seva for a few days, and which is usually is very rare that I don't do my seva. Even now, usually I always do my seva, but a few days I had very heavy cold and I was not able to. And just at that time during Kartik, Gurudeva was staying in a nearby place, very near to ISKCON temple, which belonged first to Brijbasi, who was very close to Prabhupada, but then he left this world also after Prabhupada also. And then some ISKCON devotees actually acquired the place, and one of Prabhupada's sannyasi disciples, Tamakrishna Goswami, had acquired the place. And Gurudeva was staying there. So I thought, let me go and see him. So I went there with my wife and had some questions, some doubts about the situation of the spiritual master and who is a Sadguru, and about deity worship. I had some questions, and so then I spoke to him, and within half an hour he answered all my questions and he destroyed all my doubts. And then really at that time I felt he's my guru. I have to take initiation from him. So then just shortly after that he had some difficulty with his heart. And then he went to Bombay. And he was actually staying in ISKCON, Juhu Beach, in the guest house. There was a good relationship at that time with ISKCON, fairly good. And devotees used to go see him, and he used to come to ISKCON. And then he was going for heart operation. And then some devotees from here, Vrindavan, were going to see him. And he asked me, do you want to send maybe some message or something to Gurudeva? I thought, yes, I would like to do that. Then I wrote a letter just expressing my desire to surrender unto him. And I quoted one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is explained that I accept about the spiritual master, I accept you as the captain of the ship, and we feel you're quite competent to deliver us from the cycle of birth and death. So, and so I sent that letter, and then actually the same night then I had another dream, a wonderful dream. And there again I was in the mat with Gurudev. Somehow it was Rup Sanatan Gauriya Mat always. And the Gurudev was sitting there, and the Vyasa and the devotees came there. And then I had the opportunity to take the dust from his lotus feet in a dream, and then they washed his feet in a dream. And I got the water with which they were bathing his feet. And then after that he had a little prasad, he was distributing prasad, and I was getting the prasad. As it is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Padajal, Pada Raj and Avashishta, the remnants, the food dust and the water which was used for washing the feet, that is very powerful. And so in the dream I was able to get that. And then in the dream also he accepted me as his disciple. And then I was so moved in the dream that I cried, and I woke up, then also crying after that. And it was in front of the deities there in the dream. And then after that, so he left, and then I was following him. He was going in a car somehow, and then I was holding the door open, and then he was sitting inside, and he said, never forget that experience of this, this initiation and this exchange. And then I woke up completely in ecstasy, and